Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking some truly ancient, timeless wisdom to figure out our actual purpose in this realm. Have you ever just looked around at the state of the globe, the chaos, the suffering, the seemingly endless struggles, and thought, wait, is this entire physical existence just some kind of trap? Well, today, we're going to completely flip that paradigm by looking at what timeless esoteric traditions actually teach about our reality. And honestly, it might just change the way you view your entire life.
So let's dive right into this massive question. It's one that's honestly troubled spiritual seekers for centuries. Lately, there's been this huge surge in theories claiming we're trapped in a simulation, or that the physical realm is literally a prison matrix built to enslave us. But if we actually dig into the foundational teachings passed down through the ages, we find a completely different and frankly, much more profound answer about why we're really here.
It's absolutely fascinating to look at the contrast here. On one hand, you've got this modern, really disempowering belief in a demonic creator, and on the other, the ancient empowering idea of a divine plan. When we look out at society and see pain, it's so easy to just assume we must be under the thumb of some evil metaphysical being who built this place to punish us. But timeless wisdom? It strongly warns against this kind of literal victimhood. Instead, it offers esoteric empowerment. It shows us that the divine plan doesn't involve a creator of evil, but rather an environment built specifically for our evolution.
Now, to really grasp this, we have to understand how the ancients actually used language. Original biblical and esoteric teachings draw a super clear line between the physical planet and the passing psychological age. See, the earth is the literal matter, the ground, the mountains, the rivers. But the world, that refers to the shifting mindset, the cultural opinions, and the zeitgeist of a specific era. So when ancient texts talk about the god of this world blinding people, they're talking about a negative influence on human minds during a specific time period. They're absolutely not talking about the physical creator of the planet itself. And this distinction is right at the heart of the esoteric doctrine of the world ages. It perfectly illustrates that while human consciousness is always evolving through different epochs, the physical earth itself remains a constant stage. Ancient traditions understood that humanity goes through these massive cycles, usually described as the golden, silver, bronze, and iron ages. Right now, sure, we might be in a really dense, difficult age where people act out of fear and corruption. But remember, that's a temporary psychological state of humanity. It's not a flaw in the physical design of the earth. Because of these cycles, the absolutely crucial point here is that we can't mistake the temporary pain of our current age for a permanent corruption of the earth itself. As timeless wisdom reminds us, one generation passes away and another generation comes, but the earth abides forever. The physical stage isn't ending, and it definitely isn't inherently evil. It's just the current psychological mindset that will eventually pass away, making room for a new, higher level of consciousness.
So, what does this all mean for our understanding of evil? Well, it completely flips it on its head. It reveals that evil isn't some literal force cooked up by a dark god, but simply a misdirected human choice. Think about it. If the supreme principle didn't create a literal satanic force to build the physical realm, where does all the bad stuff come from? Ancient traditions teach that evil isn't a substance. It's not a physical thing you can touch. It's literally just the furthest distance from the divine. It's the absence of good. Evil is generated strictly in the minds, hearts, and erroneous decisions of mankind.
Ancient astrological and mystical traditions show us this incredibly beautiful flow of creation. They reveal that matter is really just the most remote emanation of the divine. Everything starts at the top with a perfect supreme principle, and then it cascades downward through these stages of divine emanation. The material realm is just the densest, furthest effect of that divine energy. So we descend into this material vehicle, not as prisoners, no way, but as sparks of the divine embarking on a journey to eventually purify ourselves and return to the source. Which brings us to teleology, the ultimate purpose of this realm. And that purpose is to provide the exact friction and pressure needed to forge our little divine spark into a blazing fire. You might be wondering, why would the divine build a place with so much resistance? Well, because without resistance, there's no growth. It's exactly like a cosmic gym. You wouldn't walk into a gym and complain that the weights are too heavy, right? The resistance is what builds the muscle. The struggles, the stress, the strain of physical existence, they aren't punishments. They're the spiritual weights designed specifically to force us to exert our true potential. Okay, let's decode a hugely misunderstood concept here, the Demiurge. Now, modern internet theories have completely twisted this word into some evil, metaphysical monster that's trapping us in a physical prison. But if you look at the actual roots of the word, from demos and ergos, it simply means a public worker, a craftsman, or a maker. In the truest esoteric sense, the Demiurge is not some external demon.
It's actually the contemplative faculty of your own mind, actively working to shape and order your reality.
And here is the really profound realization. We are the co-creators. If we're harboring trauma internally, our mind acts as that craftsman and projects that pain outward. It literally manifests a hellish, victim-based worldview. If your internal world is full of unhealed pain and fear, your inner Demiurge goes to work projecting that onto the external world. Suddenly, you start seeing demons, traps, and conspiracies everywhere. It's an imbalanced internal view that literally creates the illusion of a dark force ruling over you.
This is a stark contrast between the victim trap and the hero's journey. The victim mentality constantly blames some external evil force, but the esoteric path of enlightenment, that demands we take absolute responsibility for our choices. I mean, claiming that life is a trap and you're just a helpless prisoner is the exact opposite of spiritual knowledge. It strips away all your power. The true path, the hero's journey, requires recognizing that you are a divine spark. You chose to embark on this great adventure to conquer the darkness, both within and without.
And timeless wisdom doesn't tell us to go hide in a safe space somewhere. Instead, it equips us with the tools of the divine warrior, giving us the spiritual armor necessary to slay our own internal serpents and actually conquer this adventure. You weren't sent here defenseless. You're equipped with free will to make choices, the armor of God to protect your spirit, and the sword of the Spirit, which is divine truth, to cut right through the illusions of this world age. Basically, you are meant to be a spiritual warrior.
Now, to adopt a truly balanced worldview, we absolutely have to acknowledge the full spectrum of life in this earthly school. When people claim Earth is just a hellish prison, they are entirely focused on one side of the equation, the terror, the pain, the suffering. But they're completely ignoring the other side. This realm also holds the joy of discovery, poetry, dance, romance, and music. To have the freedom of infinite possibilities, the spectrum literally has to include both extremes.
Ultimately, to reject the painful aspects of our soul's journey is basically to reject the reward itself. You get out of this creation exactly what you put into it. Think about it. Everyone wants that breathtaking view from the summit of Mount Everest, right? But nobody wants to make the grueling, painful climb to get there. Spiritual rebirth requires enduring the necessary friction of life. You simply cannot have the birth without the pain.
And this profound piece of timeless tradition reminds us of something so important. Denying the goodness of this earthly experience is essentially cursing the divine plan itself. To look at this world, with all its splendid beauty, and just write it off as a miserable dungeon fit only for escape, well, that destroys the very foundation of spiritual hope. Yes, there are evils created by misdirected human will, for sure, but the foundational truth of all true esoteric paths is crystal clear. Life, in its entirety, is a magnificent blessing.
Understanding this profound blessing brings us right to our ultimate purpose. We aren't just meant to sit around waiting for an escape pod to another realm. We are here to actively transform this present scene of action into a masterpiece. Ancient wisdom teaches that you weren't sent here to endlessly complain and dream of leaving. You have high, sacred duties. You are here to live in this realm, to truly enjoy it, to study it, to embellish it, and to use your unique divine spark to elevate the happiness of yourself and everyone around you. So, to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, pretty provocative question about how you're going to navigate your own divine journey. Will you play the victim? Will you let the challenges of this current world age convince you that you're just a helpless prisoner in a cosmic trap? Or will you put on the armor of a spiritual warrior, embrace the friction, and accept this earthly school as the greatest adventure ever conceived? The choice, as always, is entirely yours. Keep seeking, keep growing, and we'll see you next time.